Welcome again to another edition of It's Not About Me, a little podcast that Gary Patterson and I started a few months ago. And once again, before I introduce our guest, you know, it seems like every time I sit down in this chair to get ready for this podcast, our guest is a Hall of Famer. Well, September the 18th, this in Fort Worth, Texas, at TCU, the newest member of the TCU Athletic Hall of Fame is going in, and it's Gary Patterson.
Thanks,
so
Lance.
Congratulations there, Coach.
Yep. Well, we're way excited. You know, almost every person that's going in this class is I was there coaching while they were playing. So it's a lot of fun for me to see how now some of them 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I think Carpenter said he's been playing 15 years.
Yeah,
so it's been 19 years that I've been around watching Matt Carpenter play baseball. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Well, it's a great honor, and I'm just going to say this because I would think this starts a long list of Hall of Fames that Gary Patterson will be going into.
Well, I appreciate it. It's athletes, they were the warriors, kind of like golfers. You were the warrior. You went and play. You know, the coach is part of the village, Davis. And so for me, it's, thanking all the coaches, all the players, all the boosters, all the people that were part of us getting a chance to do this. You know, TCU, probably only one other university's really changed it around like we have, and that was Kansas State with Coach Bill Snyder a long time ago. And I happened just to go to Kansas State before all that happened. But, it's fun, to see how Fort Worth's changed, to see how TCU's changed. Really, it's been, Kelsey and I, and you really got to thank your family, your three boys, and your wife, because they're the ones that did all the sacrificing. That obviously, just like your family's done, Lance. And congratulations to you too, Davis, for all the things you've accomplished. I didn't play much golf because I worked too much, but now I am. My wife said I had to be gone 4 to 6 hours a day, for better, for worse, but not for lunch. So I went from a plus 20 to I got down to a 5, and I couldn't win any money on the course. So now I got it back to like a 7.5. So at least I get a couple shots with these guys these flat bellies that can hit it a long way. So it's been a lot of fun. And doing this with Lance, we'd been talking about this for a couple years. We like Not About Us because we really just like being able to tell stories about great people that sometimes later in their careers, people tend to want to forget. And we said, because we've had Jack Nicklaus on here, we have Jim Nance. I mean, now we're going to have Davis Love on here right before the Ryder Cup. I mean, to me, it's just an outstanding hour that we're going to get a chance to spend. So thank you for taking your time. And, I'm going to tell you, I'll be always indebted that I got a chance to do a podcast with the immortal. I call him the immortal Lance Barrow. So this is going to be a lot of fun for us, and we're just glad that you took time to be on here with us.
Well, thanks, Coach, and congratulations on the Hall of Fame. Yeah, I'm still pinching myself that I got in the Hall of Fame, and Lance knows that I've got a lot of great friends that are in the Golf Hall of Fame. But my friend Fred Couples got in, and a famous baseball player that will not be named on your podcast was sitting with the great writer Michael Bamberger. And Michael Bamberger said, "Hey, your buddy Fred Couples just got in the World Golf Hall of Fame." And the baseball player said, "Is that a real thing, the Golf Hall of Fame?" And so you're going in a real football Hall of Fame. We're just a bunch of golf.
I think we are to actually give Davis Love III a proper introduction.
Yeah.
Before I do that, Kelsey, your wife, you, Gary, have done so much, not only for TCU over all these years, but the community of Fort Worth. You're still giving back, Kelsey and you, with your foundation and what you guys do for so many people who aren't as blessed as other people, giving back. And that's a really true about what kind of people that you are, and that's what makes not only you, but Kelsey Hall of Famers. And so thank you, as a native of Fort Worth. Thank you for what you've done for this community, Kelsey and yourself. So thank you.
Well, Lance, it can't be about wins and losses. I mean, I'm sure that Davis, all the tournaments you've won and all the things you have, it can't be about the wins and losses. It has to be about the people. It has to be about the mark you make. I really appreciate more when people say thanks for what you did for Fort Worth more than thanks for winning the Rose Bowl. I think it's just, with Leon Bridges, our partner now, and everything that we do at the foundation, I'm getting as much satisfaction out of that. And, now, the problem with it is not everybody else likes it, but then I get to write music and sing, and that makes me happier than they say, music's like your own cooking. You don't have to cook well enough to eat it. You only have to play well and sing it well enough for you to like it. And so it makes me happy, so everybody else is happy. But it's, we've really enjoyed the last 3 years of being kind of semi-retired and being able to give back and do all the things we've been able to get accomplished. So thanks.
Thank you. Well, let's do a proper introduction. We have another Hall of Famer. We keep having Hall of Famers on this little podcast that we started a few months ago. I think of him as a brother. We have done a lot of stuff together. We've been in great times. We've been sad times at times, but we've always been there for each other. You talk about a Hall of Famer. Not only is he a Hall of Famer as an athlete, a great golfer, one of the best to ever played the game, he's a Hall of Famer friend. He's a Hall of Famer husband, dad, grandfather, and just a great, great human being who also has given back more than anyone would ever know. And he doesn't really want people to know how much he's given back to the game of golf, to society, to, he's always there for you. And I am just honored that he would take a few moments. He's out doing a golf outing for his old caddy, Cubby Burke, out in Idaho, and he thought he would spend a few moments with us on our podcast. The great, the legendary, the Hall of Fame major champion winner, Davis Love III. Davis, that looks like a nice place you're out there today.
Yeah, you can tell that this back here in the background is not Sea Island, Georgia. So when I got out on tour, Brad Faxon had this caddy, John Cub Burke, who should be in the Caddy Hall of Fame if he's not already. And he was playing for a little hockey team in Sun Valley, Idaho, the Sun Valley Suns, in the winter, and caddying for Brad the rest of the year. And so I've been hooked on, not only I played hockey as a peewee in Atlanta and hooked on Sun Valley, but then Brad fired Cubby and I hired him. So he caddied for me for a long time. We got a bunch of wins together. And like Gary and his family, giving back to the community, Cubby, because of his life on the PGA Tour, started a foundation for his hockey team. And now me and some other guys support the Sun Valley Suns hockey team. And on weekends, they give all the money they make to charity, just like a golf tournament. So I'm out here doing a little fundraising, and I might have slipped in a little fishing in the mornings and the afternoons while I'm doing it.
Good for you.
Yeah, the only problem, there's no snow there for you to go snowboarding.
I'll be back in the winter. I'll be ready for
You're
that.
a snowboarder?
Yeah, I'm a dark sider. Actually,
Don't get yourself hurt.
This past winter was the first time since 1986 I had not been on the mountain out here in Sun Valley. So, like Lance said, my little granddaughters and I are scheming to get back out here this winter and get after the skiing and the snowboarding.
Davis, this will be kind of a convoluted kind of conversation, but with the Ryder Cup just a few days away at Bethpage up there in New York and Long Island, you captained the team twice, one winning, one losing, and you also played on very many Ryder Cup, sinking one of the most important putts in Ryder Cup history in England for the U.S. team to win. What has Keegan Bradley going through right now, getting ready for the Ryder Cup as the team captain for the Ryder Cup for the U.S., and also Luke Donald, who won the last Ryder Cup as captain of the Europeans.
Well, so my former caddy, John Cubby Burke, is the caddy captain for Keegan Bradley because Cubby has so much experience with it. And, obviously a team player, being a hockey player, a hockey coach, a great caddy. He's helping Keegan at the Ryder Cup. But while I was playing golf yesterday, I get this text from Keegan, and I guess he just read that I congratulated him on winning the Travelers. But he goes, "Sorry, I missed this." He goes, "I'm so nervous. Is this normal?" Yeah. It's like 5 majors all at once. And so I sent him back what I've told him like 2 or 3 times that Paul Isinger told me when I first was named captain for the 2012 Ryder Cup. I said, remember, Paul said, control what you can control and don't worry about the rest. And I don't know if that's going to help him, but he is so nervous right now. And Lance, you and I know Keegan very well, and he's a jumpy, nervous kind of player, and he's real quiet off the golf course. So now we're getting him to be, he has to be the spokesman for the world of golf for a year and a half, and he's getting really nervous. So my only other advice for him would be act like nothing's going on, be cool and calm, and the players will think that everything's okay. If he's running around like a chicken with his head cut off, he's going to make them nervous. So we'll try to calm him down, but luckily he's got Jim Furyk with a lot of experience. He's got Brant Snedeker, who's a great guy. And even though Brant's highly animated and fast talking, he's very thoughtful and organized. So he's got good people around him. Plus, then they got Kevin Kisner to keep everybody laughing. So I think they're all set. But, hey, I saw a headline this morning. The Ryder Cup just needs to start. And I think that's where Keegan is. I wish we could just start playing and get to what we know how to do.
When you're getting ready, I remember once being at your house many years ago when you were playing on the Ryder Cup team, in the room you gave me to sleep in, you had even your wife's Robin stuff, you had all the Ryder Cup clothes and everything laid out because you guys were going to the Ryder Cup the next week. As the captain, I'm sitting here with Gary Patterson, one of the legendary football coaches that ever coached the college game. And I played college football, and I've been around it all my life. I kind of know what coaches do getting ready Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and because it's a team sport. You guys, other than when you're playing really in high school and college, you guys, it's an individual sport. You have your caddy, you might have your team around you, but it's really you and your caddy in between the ropes. So as a captain of a Ryder Cup team, as you were twice, walk us through what your responsibilities are starting when you get on site all the way through the last putt that goes in the hole on Sunday afternoon.
Well, you're right. That's the difference for a Ryder Cup team. So Coach Patterson has an equipment guy or a team of equipment guys, and all the uniforms are laid out. And those guys wear them when they practice. They wear them when they play. They do the same thing all year long. When you're at the facility, here's your gear, put it on, let's go run into each other. But in golf, all of a sudden, these guys show up. They're going to show up at Bethpage in a hotel, and they can't bring their bag or their normal clothes, or as we saw with Patrick Cantlay, can't find a hat that fits. We give them all new stuff. And there was a great piece that they did put together of past captains, and Byron Nelson said, man, the Ryder Cup is so incredible. We get bags alike and clothes alike. And he went through the whole thing. And I was like, yeah, even back then, they had to take their clubs out of their bag and put them in a USA bag. So you have to, it sounds silly, but you have to get tees and put them in your new bag, and you have to get completely reorganized. So Monday is like, everybody go in your room and don't come out until you know your clothes fit. If they don't fit, go down the hall, and the tailor and the Ralph Lauren people will help you sort it out. It's logistics that the captain, if he's organized, and his assistants and the PGA of America team, they got to get them organized from Sunday night, Monday morning, to where when they go out to practice on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, when they go to opening ceremonies, their blazer fits. That's the logistical side of it, that if Keegan and his team can do a really good job walking the guys through, then they have more time to go putt and chip.
And they feel better.
Yeah, and the whole hat thing with Patrick Cantlay didn't start in Rome. It started at Whistling Straits so Patrick Cantlay wears a certain kind of hat 300 other days of the year, and then he goes to the Ryder Cup and he has a box of hats in his room. I spent 2 days at Whistling Straits trying to find him a hat that he was happy with, because I'm a bucket head too. I can't find a hat that fits. I said, Patrick, I got my hats from last year. I get it. But we couldn't find him one, and he finally just said, what the heck? I'll just play without a hat. Then he started playing well. So what do you do when you do that? You don't change. So he went to Rome and go, I'm going to do the same thing because I played well at Whistling Straits. So anyway, it's a lot of logistics, but it's a lot of fun. Keegan's like, okay, guys, be in the team room at 7:00. We're going to, have, Peyton Manning's going to come and speak, and then we're going to have dinner, and then you guys can go do whatever you want. Get back to your therapist or, go to bed early. So it's the team room stuff is so much fun that he's just trying to get them to the golf course and back to the hotel and back to hanging out and Lance, hit the buffet.
Well, this all sounds crazy. This all sounds crazy for me to ask you these questions, because I don't think a lot of people understand. You and I have had a lot of meals together. We've had a lot of other things, being together, going to do things and stuff like that. Everybody that plays professional golf is an individual contractor, as they say all the time. Now for 5, 6, 7 days, you're on a team. Like Gary will put up when he was coaching in his locker room. Kickers go out on the field at this time. Specialty goes out here. Linemen go out here. We kick off at this time. I mean, do you have guys, I know with you, if you're not playing until later in the day, you might not come out of your room until later in the morning. You're not up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. There's some guys who are up early. How do you get everybody together? And you also have family members, you have people around them, that everybody's used to being by themselves as an individual sport. How do you get them all together? Like, okay, the bus leaves here. Maybe a guy doesn't want to leave that early. We're going to go here and that. How, as a captain, get that all worked out? I mean, there's 1,000 things you could put on a list about food, about clothes, about playing together. I don't want to play with this guy and that guy. How do you do that?
Well,
don't let Lance be in charge. He just told you a whole bunch of things. Just simple it down.
It's herding cats. Coach Patterson can say, if you guys aren't on the bus at 8 a.m., everybody has to run. So everybody runs and gets on the bus. When it's 12 tour pros, you can't make them run, and you can't kick them off the team. So you have to be intentional about, hey, if we all pull together and everybody shows up on time and ties your bow tie and gets down for the pictures, then Friday, Saturday, Sunday are going to be a lot of fun. Let's do the little things organizationally. Now, the PGA of America has a huge team, but we have a caddy captain that's helping the caddies. We have a trainer captain, our guy Randy Myers from Sea Island, Georgia. I brought him in 2012 to help me, build gyms, get the guys what they're used to with their trainers. Now Randy, his all-time quarterback on the President's Cup, Ryder Cup team, organizing the trainers. So Keegan has a bunch of people to help him, and he's laid out the plan for months and months. just listening from the sidelines, I know how organized, and he's saying the right things, doing the right things, but you still have to get Bryson and all his stuff. He has more stuff than anybody in a car and out to the golf course on Monday. I remember leaving, we were in Paris. We were leaving the locker room on Sunday night, getting back to the hotel, and I went to the transportation people and I said, I need 3 cars. She said, 3 cars? I go, yeah, I got to get Bryson back to the hotel. He's got so much stuff. We need 3 cars. So there's people to help the players get done what they need to get done. But it really is. It's a lot. You know, Brooks Koepka got in trouble for saying, well, I just don't get time to take a nap at the Ryder Cup. Well, what he was saying was, I'm out of my normal routine so much that it's hard to follow along for the whole week. And that's the big challenge, is getting these guys organized. And they know what to do. You're right, Lance. Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele, you're first off on Friday morning. They can handle that part of it. It's getting dressed and showing up on time for dinner and having their picture made. That's the hard part.
You know, it's having been a coach, Davis, I would think the thing that would be, because I'm the same way with golf. There's a certain tee I like to tee off with, all the way down to the tee. That it just looks right to me when I hit the ball off of it compared to a regular tee. I mean, I can't even imagine that size of group, and because they play at such a high level, what you want them to play at such a high level. So you want to be able to make sure everything that goes on fits into their superstitious routine, all those things. Because even as a coach, I mean, I've been notorious for changing my shirt at halftime, tying my shoes. I mean, doing all that kind of stuff, because people don't understand. It's not really a superstition. It's a checklist.
Right.
You know, it's a checklist you do that makes sure that you feel comfortable by the time you get to that point in time where you've got to try to play at a very high level. And you're right. I could set all that stuff up. I finally just asked our trainer. I said, out of 125 guys, I said, how many guys are Chambeau, right? DeChambeau. I said, how many we're kind of like, and he said, Coach, I have 22. He said, 22 guys that have to have something. They like a jersey a certain way, or they like the way they like their mouthpiece, or whether it's like, or they, you know, they're worried about things that they're not worried about putting. And so I can't even imagine on that kind of stage, on TV, on a daily basis, that you can change, because sometimes it's just what you say to them, and it could be 2 words that like change their whole mindset. Because I play with people that don't play on that, and I'll go out and play 4 days, and if they're not putting well, they'll bring 4 different putters, a different putter every day, to see which one's actually going to work for them. And I keep telling them, there's a great possibility it's the user, but you can't really say that to them, right? So, well, how's that one feel to you? I mean, it looks like you're not pulling that one as much. I mean, it's like, I get to be where I'm coaching a guy for a dollar bet on a golf course, changing them as much as I'm trying to mentally put them in the right frame of mind so they have a good time. So I can't even imagine what it was like for you for that amount of time to do that stuff.
Well, sometimes it's high level stuff. I was actually hitting balls at the 2010 Ryder Cup with Dustin Johnson late one evening before the opening ceremonies. And I was hit the 7-iron after he hit it. I would hit the 5-iron after he hit it. And he got to the driver and he goes, you want to hit some drivers? I go, no, I don't want to hit that. So he hit it a couple more times and it cracked. So panic. Oh. So I rush around. We find driver heads. We put drivers together. We get him dialed in right before opening ceremony so he can change clothes, and he's all happy with his driver. And I'm like, I saved the day. The next time Dustin came to me at a Ryder Cup, he goes, hey, dude, we're the red, white, and blue USA tees. And I'm like, what? And he goes, we can't play without USA tees. So it's one extreme to the other. But you're right. They got to have what they're used to, and that's our job as assistant captain or captain, is not really to teach just Dustin Johnson or Bryson or Scotty Scheffler how to play the Ryder Cup. It's to get them to the first tee get them their gear, get them ready to go. And then, like they say in hockey, all we can do is open the door and let them go play. But if we get them prepared and confident and happy, then they'll go play well.
Yeah, my hat's off to you. I mean, it's because I could do something about the guys who are on scholarship, but I couldn't do. I would probably be a little bit. I'd have to think about it for a long time, thinking about handling 12 guys that made a lot more money than I did.
What, Davis, I'm sitting next to a guy who brought a football team out of the tunnel at a Rose Bowl. You, as a player, you played in a lot of Ryder Cups, a lot of President's Cup. I'll never forget Jim Simons, who was an outstanding amateur and outstanding PGA Tour pro, played at Wake Forest. He told me the most nervous he ever was, and here was a guy who led the U.S. Open as an amateur going into the final round. He said nothing was as nerve-wracking as the first Walker Cup that he played in, which they just had for amateurs, Europe, like the Ryder Cup, Europe against the U.S. When they announce you as playing for the United States of America, James Simons. I mean, tell us about that experience, for two guys who will never have that experience. What is that like to be able to see the American flag raised and you're wearing red, white, and blue and you're being introduced as playing for your country?
Well, it's nothing like it. I tried as hard as I could as an amateur to make the Walker Cup team, and I was just thrilled to be on that team at Pine Valley in 1985. And then when I got out on tour, I wanted to make Ryder Cup team. You don't really realize it until you get to your first Ryder Cup. And again, they give you a brand new bag that has your name on it. And it says United States, and it's red, white, and blue. And it kind of hits you. And then they play the national anthem, and we get one and they get 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of them. And you're like, wow, this is our Olympics. This is the biggest stage in golf. And then the nerves really kick in when they play the national anthem. Then you have to go sleep on it till Friday morning. It's pretty nerve-wracking, and it really never changes. No matter how many times you play, you're playing for your captain and your country and your teammates. But you said 93, that was my first Ryder Cup, and I had begged Tom Watson, please just put me with Tom Kite. I play and practice with him all the time. If I'm going to play in a team match, I'll be more comfortable with Tom. So, of course, we're going to play alternate shot. The first morning, we draw Seve Ballesteros and Jose Maria, so now I'm even more nervous. And we had a fog delay for like 2 hours, and I'm beside myself. I don't think I can tee it up on the first tee. And we're walking out to the first tee, and I grabbed Tom Kite by the sweater, and I pulled on him. I said, hey, I just figured out that you should hit on the odd holes, and I should hit on the even holes. He goes, no, we already decided this. Your odds. I go, yeah. I just figured out that the first hole is an odd hole. Why don't you hit? And he goes, no, you'll do fine. And Tiger Woods told the same story. He was trying to talk his partner out of the odd holes because he was so nervous in his first Ryder Cup. But there's nothing like it. I'm so excited. I'm going to go actually watch the Ryder Cup because it just becomes part of your life. It's a huge deal. And so when I see the Olympics or just watch the Walker Cup from Cypress Point, watching those kids play, there's nothing like representing your country.
Well, one more question about the Ryder Cup. So as a golf fan, as Gary and I both are, how does Beth Page set up for us as a U.S. team?
Well, we've had this analytics team since 2016 that's helped us with the Ryder Cup, and they tell us, usually try to spin it positively, things that we do well. So we've always figured out that if we could adjust the golf course, we should either set it up for a whole lot of birdies which you've been watching home Ryder Cup since 2012. That's what we've done. Well, 2008, Paul Azinger did the same thing. Or the other best for us would be a U.S. Open style setup. So I'm thinking that Bethpage is a extremely hard golf course, always has deep rough. If it's set up like a U.S. Open, it would be to our advantage. Now, it does put a little bit of luck involved if you start missing a whole bunch of fairways. But, hopefully our guys are in the fairway more than most. But it's a strategy thing, and I think we're really good. On the PGA Tour, you play more hard, difficult, leaning towards deep rough U.S. Open style golf courses these days. Fast greens and deep rough, our guys do really well.
Because you talked about analytics, Davis, I know you have 6 that earn their way in, then there's the captain opportunity to pick. Does the analytics play any part in maybe 1 or 2 of those guys because their game fits that golf course? I mean, I don't know enough about it, and so I don't, as far as that's concerned. So I was just wondering, because I know in baseball, if they have a certain pitcher on the mound, when they pull up pitch hitter, there's a certain guy they know if it comes down to this, here's the guy that's going to go hit against that guy. I just wondered because I know I've talked to like Tom, there's some guys here that play, and they know there's certain courses they really like better because it fits their game better than other courses. And so I was just interested in how the analytics or any of it all actually fits in.
Analytics has a huge part of it now. Now, obviously, 6 make it. You got to pick 6. There's some obvious picks that, all 6 aren't a guess. There might be the last 2. You're like, oh, well, should we go this way or that way with this guy? So, yeah, analytics play a lot in the last few picks. But just like your team, if you're going into recruiting or drafting and your team needs a quarterback and you go out and get another running back, the team's going to go, whoa, we need a quarterback. That's what we're doing. We're filling holes in our 12-man lineup. You want to pick Patrick Cantlay because nobody wants to play Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele. So that's a pretty obvious pick. But then you get farther down there. Yes, the analytics say this guy for this golf course, and he pairs well with these 2 or 3 guys. Then you have a great pick. So when it comes down to an either or, the analytics really help. For example, in 2016, we had 1 pick left after the Tour Championship, the day we were going to the Ryder Cup, and Davis, we skipped over Bubba Watson and picked Ryan Moore. Bubba Watson was number, 7 in the world and 9th in Ryder Cup points or something. And we didn't pick him, and we picked Ryan Moore. Now, if you're on the outside looking in, you go, whoa, that's crazy. Bubba Watson hits it a long way. It's a big golf course on reasons. But Ryan Moore was putting incredibly well, almost won the Tour Championship, and strokes gained tee to green. He was the best player available, and he paired well with a lot of guys on our team. Analytics-wise, hey, it's 4th down and 2, and we're at the 50, but we're going. Analytics say go.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it makes sense, but the odds are. So Ryan Moore was not a strange pick to anybody on the inside, but on the outside, he looked, well, what the heck? Guess who won the final point on Sunday was Ryan Moore. And he played great on that golf course. The shortest hitter probably on our team was an MVP. So, yes, it's a huge, huge part of it. And then the way we make our pairings, it's not just 2-man teams. It's 4-team lineups that are going to win that session. And then do the same thing in the afternoon. Let's have 4-man teams that are going to win this session. So the analytics, Jim Furyk and I probably have spent more time on that since 2016 than anybody. And we've come to rely on our analytics team to help us either make a decision or sell that decision to the players. Look, if you guys just do this, you go odd, you go even, you have a 97% chance of winning your match, and then they get even more fired up to go play.
Yeah, I would think that's a great story. See, I don't think that people would really realize behind the ropes just how much thought process. It's not one of those, well, yeah, this just a good buddy, you just said it. They play the national anthem. You see United States, there's a lot of pressure. We're just not going into this like I'm going with four buddies. I'm going to four buddies to play some golf course we haven't played before.
Right.
You just said you're going to set a golf course up a certain way. You're going to pick people that are going to pair best. I don't think anybody has any idea. And that's why I like doing this. I like doing this program because we get a chance to let people tell those kind of stories. One of the things you got to tell me is, where'd you grow up? Where'd you grow up? How many kids in your family? What got you into golf? All those kind of things. I'm now a golf junkie, so now I want to know how everybody gets started and where you came from and what's your story of how you got where you're at.
Well, I was playing with as we say on tour, I was playing with three new friends yesterday, in a kind of a pro-am kind of format, out playing golf, raising money for charity, and that was one of the questions. So, how did you get started in golf? Well, my dad was a PGA of America club pro, a teaching pro, former tour player, and I didn't have a choice. My dad was at the golf course. He was teaching my mom to play golf, and I had to go with him. And so I was playing when I could walk, literally playing and hitting golf balls in diapers, and grew up at the golf course. So I was really blessed to have the opportunity. And then as I got older, my brother Mark's 2 years younger. We all played golf together, but as a teenager, 12, 13 years old, I told my dad, I said, hey, I want to get good at this. What do I have to do? And he goes, well, great. You follow along, you follow the rules, work hard. I'll put you on a program. So I was lucky that I had a coach and a teacher and a former tour player to grow up with. So I came up in golf and then got married shortly after joining the tour in 1986. And then we had our first child a lot faster than we expected. And our daughter Lexi was born in 88. And then her brother Drew Davis Love IV came along a few years later. And my daughter has three young daughters that play golf. And one of them's a lefty, the oldest one, and the two little ones are righties. But they're into horses and dancing and all that. So and Lance will tell you, I'd rather be outside doing something, hunting or fishing or with my granddaughters than about anything. So enjoying family life at I like to call it the senior tour age, Champions Tour age. I'm enjoying my family more and more, but I grew up in golf and didn't know any better. And thankfully, my dad set the table for me.
The craziest thing, I never thought about this, and I've used this line a lot. Someone asked Davis years ago, how much golf do you play when you go back home and see Alan? And Davis goes, I don't play golf at all when I go to see Alan. That's my job. When I go home, I do stuff that I want to do, like hunting, fishing, being with my family, being with friends. And, and you think about us, Gary, we play golf for fun. He does golf for a living. Excuse me. But you never think about that. You never think about golf, just like you when you were coaching, or me when I was at the height of producing television sports. Sometimes you didn't watch certain sports because you wanted to do something else because that was your job.
Yeah.
And I've said that to people a lot over the years, that Davis said, that's my job. I do other things when I'm at home. And you don't think of that because we enjoy it so much. Davis, I know your dad was a big influence on you, tragically lost his life in a plane crash. You wrote a book, a bestseller with Michael Bamberger, the great writer. Tell us a little bit about that book and what brought that about.
Well, I was just with our friend Jim Nance a few nights ago doing a thing in Hilton Head, and he brought up the PGA Championship and the Rainbow and Winged Foot and all that. And I said, it was a great opportunity for Jim Nantz to tell the story about who my dad was. And we talked about my dad played for the University of Texas for the great Harvey Penick, who also coached some other golfers, Crenshaw, Kite, a lot of Hall of Famers. And so I grew up with this organized old school coaching. But my dad would take a yellow legal pad and write down everything that he did during the day. And so I had all these yellow legal pad notes about my lessons or not doing my homework or my to-do list for the yard. But my dad kept for me or for my brother or even for my mom a file of notes that he made about our golf games. He had just literally file drawers full of stuff, article ideas, lesson plans for other players, just all this wealth of information that he wrote down, before Apple came along and created products for us. He was writing it down on yellow legal pads. So after he passed away, some people knew about that and said, you should do like a Harvey Penick little red book. So my excuse to the publishing company was, well, I'm not a writer, and the only person I would do that with is Michael Bamberger, and he would never do it. Well, next thing you know, Michael Bamberger calls me and goes, I would love to do it. So anyway, we sat down and went through all that and came up with kind of like a little red book, like some lessons from Davis Love Jr. and the story of me growing up in golf. And Michael and I still to this day say we should start adding some more chapters or another volume to catch up from when we did that. But it's been a fun book, and people still ask me to autograph it and ask me about lessons my dad gave that they read about in the book. So it turned out great. Every shot I take is a play on my dad. Like, when do you think about your dad? And I said to Michael Bamberger, every time I hit a golf ball, I think about my dad. I was practicing yesterday, and I'm like, well, my dad said, if I just swung really slow and paused at the top, then I won't get quick and come over the top of it. I can't play golf without thinking about something he told me, even to this day. He's been gone a long time, but still the lessons hang in there. So I love the book, and I love the little red book. Harvey was a treasure, and things like that Harvey wrote down in his little book will just live on forever.
That's way cool. I think that's way cool.
Davis.
Everybody should read To the Links Land by Michael Bamberger and Harvey Penick's Little Red Book. And there's a couple turkey hunting books that if you're an outdoorsman, you should read them like every year to inspire your golf game. You should, kids especially. I just heard about a young lady, friend of a friend, 13-year-old golfer, excited about her game. I need to make sure she has Harvey Penick's book and To the Links Land and Bobby Jones, Golf My Way. Things like that live on forever because they're just so instrumental to the foundations of golf and what golf does, not only for your golf game, but for your life.
Davis, one of the great tributes I think that when I think about you, Gary, anybody that you ever bring up Davis Love III's name, they always say, oh, he's a great friend of mine, even though they might have only met him once. Yeah. How do you do it? How do you make people feel so comfortable? And I've seen it. Everybody feels like you're a friend of theirs. How do you do that?
Well, I thought about that the other day because I was listening to XM radio, and on the Message Christian channel, there's a song, I Want My Life to Preach is the line in the song. So my dad was a PGA of America member, a club pro. His whole life was making people enjoy golf, teaching them to play, making sure they had the right shirts in the pro shop, making sure they made their tee time, teaching teachers to teach golf. And guess where he met my mom? The members of the First Baptist Church of Charlotte introduced the secretary to the pastor, my mom, to the golf pro at Charlotte Country Club. So I not only grew up with the traditions and the expectations of a club pro that learned from Harvey Penick, but also grew up in the church and Sunday school, church, and having faith. So those two things from my parents is who I am. And that's who my kids are too. You know, my greatest joy is when somebody says the same thing you just said about me, but they say it about my kids. And now my granddaughter, when people come to me and say, Eloise is so grown up and she's so polite and she's so sweet, and we saw her in church Sunday and da-da-da-da-da, that makes me more proud of anything other than golf. So, well, you know my family, Lance. You know my mom. There was no getting around it. You were going to yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, open the door. You know, you were going to be a good citizen and a good, faithful Christian, and there was no ifs, ands, or buts around it. So that's the ultimate compliment to me. And Jim Nance, again, and I were talking about, my dad would be most proud of me that, like Gary said, I won the Bob Jones Award and the Payne Stewart Award. He would not tell you first that I won the PGA Championship or the Players Championship. He would go straight to, this is what he's done. And now with our foundation, you know, Gary, we're all get a great platform. You're doing great things in Fort Worth. My little foundation in Sea Island, Georgia, with our PGA Tour event, has given $50 million to charity. That's what I was expected to do, carry on that tradition of my parents and the PGA Tour.
You know, I write music, Davis, so tell me if you say this is true when you probably play in the Ryder Cup or in a tournament. So when I left TC, I wrote a song with a guy out of Nashville. It was called The Day I Walk Away. And one of the starts of one of the verses, it said, the suffocation of the crowd, the heartbeats singing out loud. When I walked in the Rose Bowl, 95,000 from where TCU was, I would have to think on the final day of the Masters or the Ryder Cup or any of those things, does that line illustrate to you how you felt? I mean, because I was like, they don't understand. Just all these people on top. So the suffocation of the crowd, the heartbeat singing out loud. You know, everybody around you doing all of it. And the guy I was writing with, because he did not play sports, but he was a musician. He said, I don't like that. I don't understand it. I said, that's how I felt. I said, you pull up and you have this whole stadium with 4 to 6 million people on TV, and it was like, you know, you hear all of them screaming at the same time. And so for me, that's as close as I got to anything that you've talked about, is just understanding that you realize the crowd, how important it was, how nervous it made you, but how important they were to you.
Yeah, there's nothing like, you know, you're on the putting green and it's kind of quiet and you walk through this, especially like at a Masters or US Open, you walk from the putting green through all these people and out onto the tee, or at a Ryder Cup through a tunnel and out into this semi stadium, and all the people are cheering, and you're like, wow, this is, I'm just a golfer. I got to go tee the ball up and hit it. But when you feel them, especially like, there's nothing like Friday morning at Bethpage for these guys walking out there in front of all those people cheering for them. But the nerves are incredible, but the excitement is incredible. I always remember Tom Kite telling me, you need to smile more and wave at the crowd and acknowledge them and, you know, project a little bit. And I go, Tom, I'm so nervous. I can't even look up. I don't want to look them in the eye. I'm so scared. And I don't have the, you know, the Ricky Fowler, that kind of just on stage presence, but you learn to deal with it and you learn to appreciate that, hey, those people are the reason we're out there. There's two things we're out there for, is for the fans to watch us play. And we're out there because the volunteers that are there watching us play are helping us raise money for charity. And when you get out there and you think all these people are either contributing to the game of golf and they're excited about watching me and Tiger Woods and Justin Thomas Rory McIlroy. They're excited to watch us play golf, but they're also there supporting what the PGA Tour does in charity. And therefore, I did learn to say hello and wave at the crowd and thank them and sign autographs, because the only reason we get to do what we do, as Fred Couples always said, all this other stuff's worth all the effort for the 4 hours inside the ropes. So we need to make sure when we're inside the ropes, like you said, that we appreciate the fans. And as Lance says, the partnerships with CBS and the networks and the media, that we appreciate that and we give back to them, because playing golf's fun, but playing golf in front of 30,000 people is a lot more fun. Coach,
well,
you want to be
go
you don't want
ahead.
to play. You don't want to play practice games. You want to play Rose Bowls. You want to be nervous for your players and for your school. You want to be nervous. So you have to learn to appreciate the knot in your stomach is why we're there. And let's see if we can execute. And then, you're not going to win every game. You're not going to win every golf tournament. But in the heat of the battle, it's all worth the effort.
Well, I've always told them, I said, if you don't have that knot, you probably should hang it up, because that's, when it doesn't, it was easy for us, because when we'd show up early before the fans were in the stands, I told them that's when you looked around the stadium, you didn't. And when we came out to play, don't look above your pads. And so it's like, so now once they started playing the game, then their personalities came out. But it was like, how do you, get them to not make it so big? And it's, I'll tell you a story. So when we played the Rose Bowl, this company came in and they wanted me to wear this new stuff. And I'd always told my kids, don't ever change when it's big. And so in pregame, I walked out. Usually I wore sneakers and khakis. Shirt was probably half out because I was always sweating and doing all of it. And so I walked out with these they were basically golf shoes, these black golf shoes, these black pants. I had this other shirt on that somebody had monogrammed on it, TCU. I walked out and I'm watching my kids and they're all looking at me funny. And so I'm walking in and our starting quarterback walking in and he says to me, it's like, I thought we don't act any differently in big games. And so when I got inside, I took it all off, put back on my tennis shoes, put on my khakis, put my hat, pulled on that old visor that I probably should have changed for a new one because it was all sweaty. And, we went and won a Rose Bowl when nobody thought we could. And so I think I've only been really playing golf for about 3 or 4 years now, because I could play 5 times. It was always scary to go play a Pro-Am when you hadn't played for 6 months. Like the Colonial, because I'd go help them with the tournament. But I've known to have an unbelievable appreciation now for somebody said, well, you'll never become a great head coach till you learn how to play. You can become a decent golfer because it's a thinking man's game. Now, the problem is I think, play golf like I do. I have partners, and usually we'll play 18 in about 2 hours, about 2 hours and 10 minutes, and so everybody gives us a bad time. I said, look, I just spent 20 hours a day watching film. I said, I want to really enjoy it and I really like it, but I can't spend 7 hours out here if I want to play 36 holes. I got to be able to get 36 holes in about 4 something. And I got to get 18 holes in like 2.5. So there's a guy now that you all gained a fan because I got a chance to watch you all through the years. I was sitting there watching. I said, I just tried to hit a shot like that about 2 weeks ago, and it did not go where they hit it. Like Scotty Scheffler hitting that chip a couple, 3 or 4 weeks ago, basically to win the tournament. I'm like, I know where Gary Patterson's ball would have went if I would have tried to chip that ball and did what that did. So my hat's off to you, and thank you for all you do outside of golf. I mean, we got to have people like Davis Love.
Well, thank you. Yeah, as I said, the tour's given me an incredible platform, and I'm happy to be a PGA Tour member. And started our own golf tournament and continue that tradition. My dad and my mom were the host for the Atlanta Classic way back in the day, and then they were the host of the first Players Championship at Atlanta Country Club when it was moving around before it found a home in Ponte Vedra, Florida. So I've come a long way from a kid that was selling lemonade at the Players Championship in Atlanta to actually owning and operating my own PGA Tour event. So I've been very blessed and met a lot of great people, including Lance Barrow and his family. All the Barrows are close to all the Loves, and golf's been an incredible journey for me, and I'm incredibly blessed. And Lance, thanks for all the fun and the great times, and I'm excited to be one of the early guys on your podcast.
Well,
so
we're
honored to be included with Jack and Jim Nance and the like.
Oh yeah.
Well, it is. I wanted to wait for the Ryder Cup time to have you on because of your history with the Ryder Cup and your involvement with the Ryder Cup. I got to ask you a couple more questions before we say goodbye, and thank you for your kind words. You know how much the Barrow family loves the Love family and all the things that we've gotten to do together outside of the golf world. It's been an amazing blessing to me and my family. I have on my wall, I have 3 pictures right when I turn to my right and see every time a picture of Ben Hogan and Arnold Palmer with cardigan sweaters on, standing on a Masters first tee circa mid-60s, which is probably not popular to say, but with 2 cigarettes both coming out of their mouths. And I look at that picture and I go, those are unbelievable studs. I mean, that's unbelievable. And then right below that is a picture of you, Davis, which was my first PGA Championship to produce at Wingfoot in New York when you made the putt with the rainbow over your head, thinking about how much that meant not only to you, but in your family, Robin and the kids, but also your mom, being the history of your dad being a PGA of America member. I mean, talk to me about that. When you think about that going back to 1997.
Well, yeah, it's an incredible fairy tale kind of story. Claude Harmon was the pro at Wingfoot for a long time, won the Masters as a club pro, and Wingfoot has so much incredible history. To win a PGA Championship is incredible. To win it at Wingfoot, one of the hardest golf courses that we play in major championship golf. To do it with my friend Justin Leonard, played the weekend with him, all that, Jim Nance and the incredible story. So it was fairy tale until I really started explaining that Sunday night in the media room, and the week after, it really hit me that, a kid that grew up literally in the bag room and in the cart barn, and as the pro's son, had just won a PGA Championship. My dad played in a lot of them, and it was his big major. He loved, as he said, the National Open. He loved the U.S. Open, and he played some British Opens, some Masters, but he loved the PGA Championship for what it stood for his organization. So that was an incredible thrill. But to give people a little insight of how golf tournaments work and how close you and your family were to me. So I'm staying with our friend Harlan Batris right there on the golf course at Wingfoot, and we finished because of all the rain late on Saturday night, and I just wanted to go back and take a shower and get nervous for Sunday. And my wife Robin says, no, we always go to dinner with Lance. We're going to a steak place. I want a steak. We're going to dinner. So if you remember, it was like 8:30 before we even got to the restaurant, and we had a nice late night dinner, and I slept in, like you said, and then I won the PGA Championship. So it was unbelievable story, but the behind the scenes stories of things like that. I left my golf clubs in the locker room when we flew out of Wingfoot, and our friend Harlan Batris had to go back to the club on Monday and get them out of the locker. And you organized us get them couriered to, I think, where did we go after that? It was
we went to Akron,
Ohio. And we told Harlan he could have the golf bag, just send the clubs. And things like that just make the memory of the PGA even more important. But, our great friend Davey Finch, the incredible Hall of Fame cameraman from CBS, ran around and got that shot of me putting the last putt with the rainbow going into the middle of the green. If Jim Nance tells the story, the rainbow went into the hole. I don't know if it actually did. That was the whole week was fairy tale, and I only won one major unless we can get the guys to start counting the Players Championship. But to have it be won that way at such an iconic place. And then after losing my dad, I ended up with Jack Lumpkin, who was an assistant for Claude Harmon. And I ended up now with, working some with Butch Harmon, and now some with Justin Parsons that came up under the Harmon family. So Winged Foot has a very, very special place in my heart and obviously in my golf game.
It was funny that Saturday night, we had never done this ever in my 50 years at CBS. We went off the air, and we're sitting in the office, and all of a sudden our executive producer comes in and said, "We're going back on the air." And I said, "Do what?" He goes, "Yeah, we're going back on the air." There was like an hour worth of daylight. We had to call Ken Venturi, who was staying at a house close by Winged Foot, that was in the shower, got him out, Jim Nance. We go back on the air, and I had just got back to my hotel room when Davis called me. This was before cell phones. And he said, "Robin said she's going to dinner tonight, either with you or me, so we might as well both of us go." And I remember asking you that night, because you weren't qualified yet for the World Series of Golf in Akron, what are you doing next week? And I've only seen one other stare, is when our dear friend Dr. Tom Loss asked Jack Nicklaus who intimidated him when he came out on tour, and Jack looked up at him and asked him, "What did you just ask me?" You did the same thing. You looked up at me and said, "What did you just ask me?" I said, "Yeah, what are you going to do next week?" And then I realized what I was asking. And you said, "Well, I'm going to win the PGA Championship tomorrow." And I said, "Oh, yeah, of course you are." And I wasn't thinking. I said, "Well, if you do, I'll fly home with you." And then we were at a party Monday night and I had asked Davis, I said, "Where's your golf clubs on the plane flying home?" And he said his brother Mark had them on the other plane. And I remember Robin coming to me. I was downstairs. She said, "Mark and Davis needs to see you up in the office." And I go up, and they said, "You're not going to believe this. We left the golf clubs in the locker room at Winged Foot." And he said, "I don't really care about anything, but I want that putter." And so we called Harlan, and we got set up a courier to bring them to Akron. And it was, I always said, here speaks volumes for the kind of guy Davis Love III is. I get on the plane, the private plane, to go back to Sea Island. Davis Love is sitting there making me iced tea, and he had just won the PGA Championship about 2.5 hours earlier. And that's the kind of friend and the kind of person Davis Love is. He was thinking enough that, oh, Lance is coming on, he's got to have iced tea, which, most people wouldn't have ever done that, especially after winning. And the other thing that gets forgotten in that story, your brother Mark walked out with the Wanamaker trophy, and somebody had to chase him and go, "What are you doing, Mark?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm taking it home to Sea Island." They go, "No, you don't get this trophy. We'll send you another one down the line, but you can't take home the trophy." And so many great memories. Davis, I guess the last question I really have, you are considered one of the leaders in golf. Forget about PGA Tour, but golf in general. You do so much for golf. You're making golf courses. You're designing golf courses all over the world. You have so many in play. A lot of people come for your advice and your wisdom about golf. A lot of things as a someone who's pretty close to the golf world, myself, and Gary, who is a great golf fan, we read a lot of stuff about LIV and the PGA Tour and all this sort of stuff. Where is, and I guess really professional golf, where is professional golf heading, and what should we think about down the line? Is it ever going to get back together, or is it going to be like this forever? Or, I know it's a very successful entity in all of golf now. More people are playing golf and this and that. Where do you see golf in the next 10 to 20 years?
That's a great question. And probably we need a whole nother hour to talk about.
Yeah.
But Lance, I don't have very many records on the PGA Tour, but I have one that I will guarantee you will never be broken. I was a 5-time elected board member of the PGA Tour. So I know how the tour works. Spent a lot of time in the boardroom and spent a lot of time during the whole LIV time when I was President's Cup captain for the 2022 team. The short version is we just hired a new CEO from the NFL, and he's seems like he's kicking butt and taking names already, making a lot of big changes. I don't know where it's going to go, but what I can tell you is some of our players left. They signed with our competitor. They gave our competitor an advantage by suing us, and they created an energy behind the current players that did not leave to do better at everything, business, in charity, in tournaments. The PGA Tour is going to continue to grow. So Jack and Arnie created the PGA Tour. They didn't split it up 50-50. They created it to be this entity we have now that promotes professional golf and gives back to charity. As long as Brian Rowlatt, the new CEO, continues that we're just trying to show Scotty Scheffler beating up on guys on the weekend and make it exciting and also give back to charity, the PGA Tour will win in the end. The tour went on without Jack and Arnie. It went on without Davis Love and Fred Couples. It will go on without Phil Mickelson and Bryson DeChambeau because of the platform, the entity that it is. Now, LIV, I don't know. How long can you keep losing money? All those questions I don't know how to answer, but as long as we focus on Fort Worth, started a tournament at Colonial, and it's it's the 6th major or 7th major, and it gives a ton of money to charity. The Dallas, what are they, the Salesmanship Club?
Uh-huh.
They give a ton of money to charity based on a PGA Tour event. As long as we keep that in focus, the tour will do great. Professional golf is great if you turn on CBS on Sunday and listen to Jim Nantz and Trevor Immelman and watch those guys play. There's no problem with it. So I think we had some problems, we have some growing pains, but I think it'll continue to flourish.
Well, I would just say this, Davis, so appreciative of what you've done and spending your time. If I can ever help you in any of your foundation stuff and doing all that, please ask, because I know that Lance would do it, and that's what we do is we give back now. So thank you a lot for taking your time, and we'll look forward to watching you some more.
I appreciate that, and I'd love to come out to Fort Worth and see you guys and help out your foundation, and then we can go get some barbecue.
Well, I've been very blessed to be able to come up. I always said Pat Summerall did golf, NFL, and tennis. If you'd have done ice hockey and track and field and basketball, that's probably what I would have done, because that's what he would have done. But I am so thankful that he did golf, and I learned the business under Frank Chikinian and all them, and I got to cover Davis Love III and Fred Couples and Ben Crenshaw and Tom Kite and all the great European golfers and Australian golfers and South African golfers. And then when it was my time to be in charge of golf at CBS Sports, to be able to be with Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson and Ernie Els and VJ Singh and Davis, and then the start of Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas and all them. And golf, no one's bigger than the game, as they say. And as David just said, it will continue to grow. It will continue to be great success. Davis, I'll let Gary have the last word, but thank you so much for doing this with us. It means a lot to me. You know how much I love you. You know how much I've enjoyed our friendship, our brotherhood together all these years. And, you know, you're always in my prayers, you and your family. And thank you for taking the time. I know you'd rather be out fishing and doing that sort of stuff than hanging around a hotel room with us two knuckleheads. But thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you so much.
All right, yeah. Thank you.